trade professionals, we are back with another news roundup and articles that keep you updated on everything you need to know. Maybe not everything, but the things that I think are important. You know, but what do I know, right? Anyways, I'm here with Lalo and Andy. So hello in our virtual studio. How are you guys doing?
Good morning. Good morning.
Hello. Hey, Anik.
Anyways, jumping right into our articles, we have some updates. We also have at the end a little incentive for USMCA manufacturers. I found it online. I thought it would be great for people to know. So we'll update you with that later on. But first of all, we want to talk about some trade news. So going ahead with the first article, the WTO launching Global Carbon Price Task Force. Yes, you heard right, a Global Carbon Price Task Force. So I know that Andy has a few things to say about this. Not sure about Lalo, but I have a few questions. And first of all, I want to ask you guys what your thoughts are on the Global Carbon Price Task Force as they're trying to help keep developing countries stay competitive, right? That's what they're saying. Would this keep it fair for all countries overall, you think? Or will this level it out? And do you think the situation will continue to arise challenges that not all countries will be on board with? I can think of some countries already, but I'm ready to hear you guys' perspective. Also, do you think this will change some of the trade in the future? Do you think some countries will not be okay with it? What could happen? You know, what is going to be the level ground here? So, yeah, let's start. Let's jump right back in.
Well, with regards to trade, I guess I'll just start it off, and whether this is fair or not, I don't know. It's still yet to be determined, but I guess the fact of the matter is that it's happening. It's becoming a thing. Let's call it. I guess it might depend on elected officials in different countries or areas to change anything if there is going to be any change. But I guess as far as trade is concerned, this article just basically is talking about coming up with a fee, a fee a pollution fee, let's call it. And so it's trying to make sure that it's fair for everyone. Like the African countries are saying, we don't pollute hardly at all. They're saying they pollute 3%. According to the article, that 3% of the pollution in the world comes from all the African countries. So they're saying when and if this ever happens, we want a fair fee. The Europeans are saying, well, wait, our fees are very fair, and then other countries are saying, wait, this is protectionism. This is just the tax so that, we are not able to import into your country, et cetera, et cetera. So really, I guess at the end of the day, if you're in trade, if you are going to be importing into certain countries that require this, unfortunately, that's just what you're going to have to do, is just figure out what it is that you need to be subject to, and until either it goes away or it's normalized or whatever the case may be, it's just something that needs to be dealt with at this point, only because it is a requirement in some countries, and so as far as trade is concerned, it's just that look for whatever it is that affects you to go into certain countries and being able to, I guess, just manage that. So that, really, that's my point. In the trade world.
Hi, everyone. Are you loving our podcast? Do you feel like watching instead of just listening to our episodes? We have started to share our podcast videos on our trade community, www.crowd.trade. where you can view the complete show, comment, and carry conversations with your peers. We have built a trade community around our training courses and different resources for you to collaborate and gain the knowledge you are looking for. Head over to crowd.trade and register for your free account. Let's start trading.
Well, and to your point, it's like, yeah, it's something that we're just going to have to deal with. This is one of those where, if you recall, I was making a big deal out of some of these things in the past. If you remember, Europe, as we mentioned, had implemented a carbon tax regulations that started. Was it the 1st of October or was it first?
I believe it was
September?
yes, October
Yeah.
1. I think. Yeah.
But as we talked about it, it's like, as I said, who was to say there's a group that was put together in Europe that was to come up with this arbitrary formula to calculate how much carbon emissions there are to put forward regarding the products that are coming in. I take issue with the developing countries where you just said, Africa is saying, hey, wait a minute, we only, are putting in 3% of the carbon in the environment or whatever on that. Well, yeah, look at it, 3% of the number of transactions out there. But if you look at the amount of emissions per the factories, they're kicking out quite a bit compared to then you look in Europe or you look in the US or wherever where there's heavy manufacturing. And if you look at that, well, there's, the majority they're saying is coming from these countries, our country or whatever, but yet on the same token, it's like, but per transaction, you look at it and it's very, very minimal. You take it even further and you look at India and China, as I keep coming back and saying that's where the majority of these human generated emissions are coming from regarding factories. And it's still, supposedly this WTO group is trying to come up with a standardized formula.
It's there's two sides because if you want to live, you want your grandchildren to live, or my kids to live, there is something we need to do, and whether that is paying a little more or whatever, it's a hard thing to talk about, and it's because you don't know, and there's so many sides. Okay, so the second article is more of a reminder. Lalo shared with me earlier too. So it's kind of to renew your registration with the FDA. And this is super important because otherwise you won't be able to import. So the article says import restrictions possible for unregistered medical device facilities. So I thought at first that it was a little weird that they would have an article on this, but it comes out. It's literally just a reminder for people to update it. And I think it's between October and December where you have to update it. And if you do not update it, you won't be able to import. So how crucial is this, Lalo and Andy, for these medical device facilities?
Well, I mean, they have to do it no matter what. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's if you don't do it, you get fined. And the big problem is that a lot of people say, "Oh, I forgot. I didn't realize it came up for renewal every year or whatever." But really, that's what the article is just doing. It's just bringing awareness. And Andy knows a lot more about this because he worked a lot with the FDA, and we had his buddy on the show talking about that.
Yeah, Dominic Veneziano. So it's like, but this is one of those where you need to have it registered for especially medical devices, folks. This is one of the things that's really crucial, that when you have on your paperwork and it goes into an entry for a medical device, you're supposed to have the manufacturing location registered with the FDA. You're supposed to have the product that you have that they produce registered that you're importing. Your exporter is supposed to be registered. You as an importer are supposed to be registered. It's like, good night, all these things. So you have different FDA registration numbers for all of these. What would happen is you can still use that FDA registration number. It goes through. If the registration has expired and it's not current, it just will slow up your importation and go through there, as well as then potentially the FDA could, may look at it and go, we're rejecting it, or you have to return it or whatever. So basically, it's just one of those, folks, if you are importing anything that requires FDA clearance, make sure that any and all entities that are supposed to be registered with the FDA are on file.
Thanks, Andy. And yeah, it was a great reminder. So going on to Article 3, which we've been there already. So it's Ford UAW leaders bar as auto strike costs rise. So here we are once again, and it seems like it is not stopping, as now Ford is speaking out on the continuing issue. Ford is kind of concerned, particularly upon the closure of the Kentucky truck plant, which it's Ford's largest and most profitable assembly operation globally, which is kind of cliche because obviously they need it to make money. Most of all, I would think, because it's all about money mostly. But why did they say in the article, there's one line that is, I'm not sure quite why they said that, such as Tesla said that they're kind of enjoying this whole process because it profits them. But does this have to do with what is it called? Electric vehicles? Or why did they say that? Why does it profit? I mean, I guess it profits them because Ford is not profiting more, but I don't understand. Ford, the great-grandson of company founder Henry Ford, said Toyota, Honda, Tesla, and other automakers are loving, quotations, are loving the strike because they know the longer it goes on, the better it is for them.
Yeah. It's because products are not going to be produced by the big automakers, and in competition basically is benefiting from, the strike and all of that. So, when you're ready to buy a vehicle, you're looking to see what's available. And so, it's, well, you know what, I can't see what I like there at Ford or whatever else, so I want to go somewhere else. And that's what's going to happen. And the other thing, though, is the UAW. Ford's come back, and like I said, the auto workers pick a main Ford of the big three: Ford, Chrysler, and who else is Chevy or GM. And they pick one of them and they work out something, and the union has been going back. The Ford has made some offers. The union has kicked it back. It's actually been a pretty generous offer too. But in that, you know what? At some point here, what would happen if Ford says, you know what? We're just not going to do this. Tell you what, we're going to shut this down and move the plant down to Mexico or over up into Canada, or we're going to go somewhere else. Then what's the UAW going to do? Union workers need to look at this, and you don't have much sympathy at all from, again, the average citizens in this, because everybody's hurting out of this inflationary type scenario here. So it's one of those things like, man, you guys are getting a really nice offer and you're still pushing back on it. So, it's almost being unrealistic.
I think so too. I agree with you. I think they're doing less good.
Just to answer your question earlier that you said about Toyota, Tesla, and all that, it's basically those are not unionized. That's why they're enjoying this. They are not part of the UAW. I wasn't sure if you understood that or not. But
no, I did not. No, I didn't know that.
They are manufacturing in the United States. They are producing automobiles in the United States. Not the fact that they're electric or anything like that. It's just the fact that they are not union automakers.
So do you think yes, sorry.
Go ahead.
Do you think a union, do you think they have it better than, what's the difference? Do they have any of these challenges?
And it depends on who you ask. I mean, if you ask management, they don't want unions. If you ask the workers, they say they want unions, but it depends. I mean, I can tell you this much. I mean, I know, and I'm not going to say too much. It's because I don't want to get this person in trouble or this company in trouble. But locally, there is a company, small business, been in business for, I believe, like 50 years now, or pretty close to 50 years, multi-generation business, small family business. They are in the construction industry or business. I'm not going to say specifically what, because I don't want to give it up. But anyway, they were approached by a group that said, if you don't unionize and if you don't create a apprenticeship program, we are going to take proper measures, blah, blah, blah. So they started talking to the employees, and the employees were like, oh, hell yeah, I definitely want to join the union. I'm going to get more money. I'm going to get more benefits, blah, blah, blah. Honestly speaking, if that business had not fought it, they did fight it. They talked and reasoned with the employees, and they told them, look, we take care of you. You've been with us for decades, and we've been taking care of you and your family, etc. If you unionize, we're going to shut this down. I cannot afford to be a union shop. There is no way I can afford it. So, I mean, ask them that. Are unions good or not? You know what I mean? And the owners of that business are typically liberal, which support unions. But when it affects you personally that way, I mean, I'm just trying to put in perspective. I'm just saying, it doesn't matter if you're liberal or not liberal, or you're conservative or Republican. When it hits, well, I'm not gonna say it that way, but when it comes down to it, yeah, I mean it's that, you know what I mean? So
no, but I agree with you, because I think that's a great perspective. Also, I think if a company really takes care of their employees, there's no need for a union. And if you want a union, but then who says that they're treating their employees well, right? The employees obviously have to feel that. But if they truly don't, then it depends. You're so right.
Well, and here's the other thing. In today's world, in the modern world, most unions have outlived their usefulness, quite frankly. However, saying that, there may be and should be, still situations where unions are there to protect the people. Okay, I get it, and it goes both ways. But here's the thing. Who's to say, with Ford, GM, and Chrysler, I'm kind of shocked that in today's world, they're still unionized. And the question comes into play is, why are you still unionized? What's the union really doing for you? There's collective bargaining. That's what they come back with. And it's like, okay, fine. But when you look at the hourly rates and the work rules and all those kinds of things, it really drives up the cost significantly. But here's one of the key things. If you work for a union job, basically, you pay a significant amount for union dues. So yeah, you get, X dollar amount per hour, but then in the end, your net it's lowered. Here's the other thing. The Toyotas, the Nissans, the Teslas and all that, they're non-unions and they're producing vehicles and all of that in a non-union environment. It can and could be done.
Yeah, I think it's going a little against and pushing for the business, like going against rather than working together. It's basically being against each other. But anyways, we'll keep you updated on that one as well. That is a wrap up of our 3 articles. I hope you enjoyed a little bit of knowledge today. But I want to end with a bit of a special, not a special, but it's something I found online I didn't find it actually. Sorry, that was a lie. But it is called The Hidden Treasures in U.S. Funding Programs for USMCA Manufacturers by, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, Lynn Gandhi, Alejandro Nemo Gomez Strozzi. And I'm going to read you just a little bit. So it says, currently, U.S. states are experiencing high revenues due to the flow down of COVID funds, continued consumer spending, and United States federal programs. This has caused the creation of new incentive programs at the state level as well, which also provide significant incentives to USMCA manufacturers. So they are all listed on the page for these federal incentives, and there's an inflation reduction. Oh no, these are.
It's part of the legislation went through. There's a lot of money and it's government funding. Yeah.
And it's great because it kind of gives a little bit back to, the USMCA manufacturers. So you definitely have to read it if you're an USMCA manufacturer, and hopefully it can help you. What do you guys think?
Well, bottom line, if you are a business that are looking at manufacturing some items or whatever, setting up a factory and all that, it basically steers you to the local economic development, committees and economic development efforts at the local and state level. So if you're looking there's federal funds that are being funneled to all the different states for that kind of stuff. So if you're interested in, seeing where some of that is, there you go. It's, the money's available for now, so to get you up and running. Hopefully you'll be able to, get up and running. It's an incentive to basically provide some funding so you can get up and running. The question is, can it be sustainable and for the long term? But there's money out there.
And it also says it's focused on chip manufacturers and clean energy development, solar panel production, electric vehicles. So it sounds very green to me. Electric vehicle charging stations across the U.S. and light manufacturing and remanufacturing. Wow, this sounds very green to me. No comment about that.
It does. But hey, Anik, here's the thing. This very effort, with the exception that chip manufacturing, that's a new one there. But all of the other items that were in there, the solar panels, the green energy and all that, was done once before under the Obama administration. Government money was funneled in there. There was a lot of businesses that were getting set up and doing these things. And when the government money ran out, every one of those businesses went belly up. It was not sustainable. That's the fear on some of this. And so hopefully this go round, there's a lot of money out there. Hopefully you can get up and running and be, worthwhile. So,
yeah, solar panels are very sustainable, I think, here in Europe, at least. I mean, you see,
the use
most
of them,
houses have them.
The manufacturing of them is very costly. So,
okay, yeah, but I mean, if you sell them, you get the money back. No, okay. Anyways, it's as easy said as done. I know. But okay, well, that wraps it up. So go check out that page. Maybe it can help you. Again, thank you guys for listening. We enjoy making these podcasts. I enjoy getting all this knowledge, and I hope you enjoy it as well. So we will see you next week. Hope you have a great rest of your week.
Thank you very much for joining us. Simply Trade is brought to you by the generous contributions of Global Training Center. You can follow the show and GTC on LinkedIn or Twitter and other social networks. Make sure you check out the show notes in the description for a full rundown of today's show with all the important links. Also, make sure that you share this with a friend and subscribe on your favorite streaming platform. We really like hearing from you. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to rate and review wherever you listen to this podcast. If you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the show or would like to sponsor Simply Trade or suggest any topic you would like for us to discuss, please contact us via email at simplytrade@globaltrainingcenter.com, or you can DM us on Twitter at simplytradepod. Thank you again for the privilege of your time. Happy trading. Simply Trade is not a law firm or an advisor. The topics and discussions conducted by Simply Trade hosts and guests should not be considered and is not intended to substitute legal advice. You should seek appropriate counsel for your own situations. These conversations and information are directed towards listeners in the United States for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only and should not be substituted for legal advice. No listener or viewer of this podcast should act or refrain from acting on the basis of information on this podcast without first seeking legal advice from counsel. Information on this podcast may not be up to date depending on the time of publishing and the time of viewership. The content of this posting is provided as is. No representations are made that the content is error-free. The views expressed in or through this podcast are those of the individual speakers, not those of their respective employers or Global Training Center as a whole. All liability with respect to actions taken or not taken based on the contents of this podcast are hereby expressly disclaimed.